Angelica Hale became one of the brightest young stars ever seen on television. But years before millions heard her sing, a deadly infection left her fighting for life, destroyed her kidneys, and changed her family forever. Her rise to fame hid years of pain, recovery, and pressure that few viewers fully understood. Behind every standing ovation stood a story of survival that reached far beyond the stage. Angelica Hale spent her first years much like countless other children. Family photos showed a happy little girl full of energy, laughter, and curiosity. Nothing suggested that her life would soon depend on some of the most advanced medical equipment available. Then, in 2012, everything changed. At just 4 years old, Angelica developed what first appeared to be a serious infection. Instead of improving, her condition became much worse. The infection turned into double pneumonia, and doctors soon realized her body was shutting down. According to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and Angelica's official biography, the infection led to septic shock, causing several organs to fail in a matter of days. Doctors placed her on ECMO life support for 12 days, a treatment used only in the most critical situations when the heart and lungs cannot work properly on their own. Every hour became a fight for survival. How would life change after surviving something so serious at only 4 years old? Share your thoughts in the comments. The crisis did not end after those frightening days. Angelica remained in the hospital for nearly 80 days, surrounded by machines, specialists, and worried family members. Although doctors managed to save her life, the damage to her kidneys proved permanent. Her kidneys could no longer filter waste from her body, making regular dialysis necessary just to stay alive. Daily life suddenly revolved around hospital visits instead of playgrounds. Her parents had to learn complicated medical routines while trying to give their daughter as normal a childhood as possible. Medical decisions replaced ordinary family plans, and uncertainty became part of everyday life. According to Angelica's official biography, those difficult months tested every member of the family emotionally and physically. Yet they also revealed an extraordinary determination. Angelica continued smiling despite painful treatments, showing a resilience that surprised even experienced medical staff. At that point, no one knew that one quiet decision made during her long recovery would eventually lead to a second chance, not only for her health, but for the future that millions would one day witness on stage. After spending nearly 18 months on dialysis, Angelica and her family finally received the news they had been hoping for. Careful medical testing showed that her mother, Eva Hale, was a compatible kidney donor. It was a rare moment of hope after more than a year filled with hospital visits, uncertainty, and constant medical care. The possibility of a transplant offered something the family had almost stopped expecting, a chance to move forward. On September 13th, 2013, mother and daughter entered neighboring hospitals in Atlanta for surgeries that would forever connect their stories in a new way. According to the National Kidney Foundation and Angelica's official account, Eva donated one of her kidneys, while a transplant team prepared Angelica to receive it. Both operations were successful, marking the beginning of a completely different chapter in their lives. The transplant saved Angelica's life, but it did not erase everything that had come before. A donated kidney requires constant care. Every day meant taking anti-rejection medicine, attending regular medical appointments, and watching closely for signs that her body might reject the new organ. Doctors explained that protecting the transplant would remain a lifelong responsibility, not a temporary treatment. The emotional recovery also unfolded more slowly than anyone expected. Months of fear had left lasting memories for the entire family. Even after returning home, hospital routines were replaced with new routines centered on medication schedules, checkups, and careful planning. Life was improving, but it would never return to exactly what it had been before the illness. During this period, another form of healing quietly entered Angelica's life. Singing lessons, which had once been simply an enjoyable activity, began to mean something much deeper. Music became a safe place where hospital memories faded, even if only for a few minutes. Each lesson helped rebuild confidence that illness had tried to take away. According to the National Kidney Foundation, performing gave Angelica a sense of freedom that medicine alone could never provide. Without realizing it, the family had discovered the first step toward a future that would eventually place a young transplant survivor in front of millions of viewers. By 2017, Angelica Hale had spent years rebuilding her health, finding comfort in music and slowly gaining confidence. At only 9 years old, she stepped onto the stage of America's Got Talent carrying far more than a dream of becoming a singer. She carried the memory of hospital rooms, countless treatments, and the determination that had already defined much of her young life. None of that was obvious to the audience. They simply saw a smiling child ready to perform. When Angelica sang Rise Up during her audition, the reaction was immediate. Her powerful voice surprised both the judges and millions of viewers watching across the country. According to NBC and Angelica's official biography, the performance quickly became one of the standout moments of the season, introducing her story to a national audience that had never heard her name before. As the competition continued, Angelica faced increasingly difficult rounds against older and more experienced performers. During the judge cuts, guest judge Chris Hardwick awarded her the Golden Buzzer, sending her directly to the live shows. It was one of the defining moments of the season, and confirmed that she was no longer just an inspiring contestant. She had become one of the competition's strongest voices. By the end of the season, Angelica finished as the youngest runner-up in the history of America's Got Talent. For many viewers, it looked like an overnight success. The standing ovations, television appearances, and media attention suggested that everything had finally fallen into place. Subscribe to follow stories where the headlines reveal only part of what really happened. Behind the cameras, however, life became more demanding than ever. Success brought interviews, travel across the country, rehearsals, charity appearances, and a growing schedule that would challenge even experienced adults. At the same time, she still had to protect her transplanted kidney through regular medical care, daily medication, and routine checkups. According to NBC and Angelica's official biography, balancing fame with lifelong health responsibilities required constant discipline. The applause sounded effortless, but living under national attention at such a young age created pressures that few people could see. As Angelica's career continued to grow, the greatest challenge was no longer surviving illness. It was learning how to live an ordinary life while millions of people expected something extraordinary every time she stepped onto a stage. For many young performers, success becomes the entire story. For Angelica Hale, it became only one part of a much larger mission. Instead of allowing her childhood illness to remain a private chapter, she chose to use her growing public platform to speak about kidney disease, organ donation, and the people still waiting for the same opportunity that had saved her life. In 2017, the National Kidney Foundation named Angelica its first kid ambassador, giving her a role that reached far beyond music. She appeared at awareness campaigns, fundraising events, and community programs, sharing her experience with families facing similar medical battles. According to the National Kidney Foundation, Angelica regularly reminded audiences that more than 100,000 Americans were waiting for a kidney transplant, helping put a human face on statistics that many people had never considered. Her calendar quickly filled with more than concerts. National television appearances, charity performances, interviews, and advocacy events became regular parts of her life. At the same time, she continued recording music, exploring acting opportunities, and building a career that had started with a single audition on a talent show. Every appearance carried two purposes. She entertained audiences while also encouraging conversations about organ donation and the importance of becoming a registered donor. Yet none of those achievements removed the responsibilities that came with receiving a transplanted kidney. Daily medication, routine blood tests, and regular medical appointments remained part of life behind the scenes. Fame did not replace those realities. It simply meant balancing them with rehearsals, travel schedules, schoolwork, and the ordinary experiences of growing up. Many families have faced illness that changed everything. If this story reminds viewers of someone they love, they can share that experience below. Public admiration continued to grow because Angelica never asked for sympathy. Instead, she focused attention on others still waiting for hope. According to the National Kidney Foundation, that message inspired countless families to learn more about organ donation and kidney health. Even so, Carrying the roles of performer, advocate, transplant survivor, and teenager at the same time was never as simple as it appeared. The spotlight celebrated her success, but the quiet responsibilities behind it revealed the true cost of surviving, and why the final chapter of her story is far more meaningful than many headlines ever suggested. The internet often rewards dramatic headlines, and Angelica Hale's story has been no exception. Countless videos and social media posts have described her life as having a tragic ending, suggesting there was a hidden scandal or a devastating secret waiting to be uncovered. Yet when those claims are compared with public records, Angelica's official biography, and information shared by the National Kidney Foundation, a very different picture emerges. The greatest tragedy in her story did not happen after fame. It happened years before millions of people knew her name. At just 4 years old, she survived septic shock, multiple organ failure, and the loss of both kidneys. After spending nearly 18 months on dialysis, a kidney donated by her mother on September 13, 2013, gave her a second chance at life. Those events were real, documented, and far more powerful than the rumors that later spread across the internet. According to Angelica's official biography and advocacy organizations, she has continued building her music career while remaining committed to raising awareness about kidney disease and organ donation. Performances, interviews, and public appearances have never erased the responsibility of protecting a transplanted kidney. Daily medication, regular medical checkups, and healthy living remain lifelong commitments that rarely appear in headlines. Perhaps the most remarkable part of Angelica's journey is not that she became famous after surviving a life-threatening illness. It is that she refused to let that illness define everything that came afterward. She chose to transform personal hardship into public encouragement, reminding families facing similar challenges that recovery is possible, even when the road is long. Her story also honors the extraordinary sacrifice made by her mother in 2013. Without that decision, the standing ovations, television appearances, and advocacy work might never have happened. Behind every performance stood a family that endured years of uncertainty before celebrating even the smallest victories. The real story was never about a hidden scandal. It was about resilience, sacrifice, and the quiet strength required to keep moving forward long after the cameras stopped recording. But that's only half the story. Another remarkable journey behind a famous television star reveals a very different struggle, and that story begins in the next video.